Very good evening from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. Welcome to the news on NTA International. I'm Musbal and Wahab. Let's see the headlines. President Buhari in Ouagadougou for an extraordinary summit on counter-terrorism by heads of state and governments of ECOWAS tasked member countries not to allow terrorist group destabilize the region. USAID promises to train more NEMA staff on disaster management. World leaders, including Vice President Osinbajo, pay tribute to former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe as he begins final homeward journey. Thanks a lot for staying tuned in. We have the details now. Member countries of the ECOWAS sub-region have been tasked to do whatever is necessary towards ensuring that terrorist groups are not allowed to destabilize the regional integration drive of a community and undermine public aspirations for a safe, secure and prosperous environment. President Muhammadu Buhari threw the challenge in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso during the extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS heads of state and governments on counter-terrorism. We'll bring you the details of these important resolutions of the summit in our subsequent bulletins. In line with the federal government's commitment to providing prompt emergency response to fire disaster across the country, the Controller General of the Fire Service, Liman Ibrahim, has presented two firefighting trucks to the government of Imo State. Doyin Dia reports that the presentation also marks the official inauguration of Zone J, Zonal Center covering Imo and Abia State.
So we are watching ball. All of a sudden, fire started, from one of the rooms. They did everything for them to quench the light. From that room, we enter another room. So I was surprised. Almost 1 hour. No fire service. We didn't see them.
I don't think we have a working fire department. I don't think so.
Some indigenes of Imo State there sharing their experiences. That narrative is changing as the federal government, in line with its objective of safeguarding lives and property of Nigerians, is expanding its response mechanism for emergency situations across the country.
That will help to reduce the response time in Imo State in case we have any fire emergency.
We are now building confidence in the public, the confidence that they've lost in the service before. Two, each and every Nigerian should get the telephone number of the nearest fire station to where he or she resides, because that will improve our time of response.
The government of General Muhammadu Buhari, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has done so well.
In a related development, the chairman of the Imo State Council of Traditional Rulers, His Majesty Eze Samuel Agunwa, called on Nigerians to take ownership of the facility and support the fire service to achieve the aims and objective of the federal government. This was at a reception to welcome the Controller General and his entourage to the palace.
Make sure that they are well maintained, that they are well supported, and that the staff, of course, that are posted to them are well taken care of.
The team is also expected to visit Ondo and Delta State in continuation of the distribution. Doyin Dia, NTA News.
The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, says it will continue to train more NEMA staff on disaster management even as the 2019 floods ravaged 26 out of the 30 states predicted to experience high risk of flooding. USAID Senior Humanitarian Advisor Charles Wanjua said this when he paid a visit to the Director General of NEMA in his office. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu reports.
The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has been executing programs in Nigeria that provide relief to victims of disaster, insecurity and other related crises. The agency has been building capacities of NEMA officials to equip them to respond promptly to disaster, which stakeholders say this has contributed to the successes recorded by NEMA in responding to disaster. This visit by the USAID delegation to NEMA was to further consolidate on the training for effective response.
So we are looking at this as an opportunity to strengthen the government of Nigeria's ability to respond to needs as they happen. We have been very happy of the relationship in the last 3 years I've been involved in this project, and we're looking forward to the future where we can see NEMA independently doing that without requiring international support.
Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mustafa Mehadja said the agency has benefited immensely from the USAID.
Today we also discuss about establishing the National Emergency Operations Centers. We discuss other important relationships or other activities that will aid or assist Nigeria in the development of emergency response schemes and systems.
The proposed training is coming at a time when the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is working hard to mitigate the effects of floods across the country. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
Ilyasu Aliyakubu is reporting from somewhere else that Yobe State government has appealed to the World Bank to extend its portfolio programs currently taking place in the state, which has significantly assisted in improving the living conditions of the people affected by Boko Haram attacks. The state's governor, Mai Malabuni, made the appeal when he received the World Bank country director, Rashid bin Masood, at the Governor's Lodge in Abuja.
Yobe State is one of the 3 major states in the northeast adversely affected by Boko Haram attacks that rendered the people homeless and other infrastructure destroyed. Since then, the World Bank has been executing programs to assist the state in its recovery efforts, one of which is these portfolio programs that targets 8 areas of development that have been executed in the state. This meeting between the state government and the World Bank provided the platform for the state to appreciate the World Bank's gesture of making life more meaningful to the people and appeal for its extension.
But we want the World Bank to assist us in the areas of education, agriculture and health to actually complement the ongoing effort of building the states.
This meeting is one of the many meetings with the international donor agencies and the state government, all in a bid to achieve security recovery of the state and improve the living conditions of the people. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
Now, guaranteeing unlimited access to justice by the downtrodden Nigerians is one of the objectives of the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria. It is to address the challenges that a 2-day management retreat tagged Repositioning Legal Aid Council of Nigeria for Better Service Delivery took the center stage in Lokoja, Kogi State. Charles Alpha reports that the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, promised that all impediment to access to justice by ordinary Nigerians will be addressed.
Established in 1970 and repealed in 2011, the Nigeria Legal Aid Council is mandated to handle both criminal and civil matters, which at the moment has in no small measure enabled coverage of substantial ground in the administration of justice in Nigeria. Part of that mandate is to guarantee free legal services to the vulnerable and poor Nigerians who cannot afford the high cost of justice. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, who declared the retreat open, was emphatic about the determination of President Muhammadu Buhari in providing better life for the ordinary Nigerian through provision of unlimited access to justice. Steps, he remarked, have been taken to address challenges of inadequate funds facing the council.
I am certainly aware of some of the challenges being faced by the council, most of which are scaled down to
Director General Legal Aid Council of Nigeria, Aliyu Abubakar, was of the opinion that despite the challenges, the council, along with critical stakeholders, have achieved success under the enabling law. Deliberation and eventual resolutions reached, he said, will be implemented to the latter.
We want to see issues on the ground. We want to formulate those issues, and when we have them, we believe that we can move forward the council with their 100% support.
Chief Judge of Kogi State, Justice Nasir Hajana, the Attorney General of the state, Controller of Correctional Services, and Commissioner of Police all pledged their support and open door policy in helping the legal council perform its duties. In Lokoja, Kogi State, Charles Alpha, NTA News.
A key aspect of a National Youth Service Corps program is mobilization of young graduates. While the logistics and planning could be cumbersome, the NYSC is grappling with another challenge in the process, that is the incidence of fake corps members. In this report, the NYSC Director General, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim, sat with Olayin Kaujo to provide an insight on issues of eligibility and discipline of corps members.
Instituted under the Gowon administration to ensure cohesion, the NYSC is what many describe as a noble cause indeed. However, practices that could be termed unnoble threatens the institution's integrity. Enrollment is an aspect that must be kept impeccable, but this, according to the helmsman, is being circumvented by some corps-producing institutions.
From our own findings, we discover some of these students lie to their parents that they are in social universities, but meanwhile they go and buy fake certificate from an institution and make themselves available to camp.
Separating the wheat from the chaff has not been without its challenges. With more than 50 fake corps members apprehended barely 2 months after a meeting with vice-chancellors, rectors and provosts of some African tertiary institutions on stemming this negative trend.
We realized that they said some of their documents were being rejected. We find out later on they said it is because they came in with fake WAEC.
Should be an interaction of the students they admit, when they admit the students, when the students are graduating.
The 2019 Batch B Stream 2 exercise, which ended some days ago, threw up this astonishing number.
We're going to follow through to ensure that in the next camp, such charlatans will not find their way to our camp anymore.
The NYSC administration says it needs cooperation to tackle this challenge and the growing incidence of unauthorized travels by corps members, which may lead to unfortunate outcomes. As the NYSC moves closer to half a century of promoting the noble cause of national unity and cohesion, the helmsman says today's corps members must epitomize discipline, both in conduct and dressing. Olayin Kaujo, NTA News.
The Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, has commended the Northern States Governors Forum for adopting federal government's National Livestock Transformation Plan. The forum, in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Mohammed Ibrahim Bill, appealed to the federal government to ensure that states willing to participate in the program are given maximum encouragement. The forum suggested that the support should be in areas of funding and provision of infrastructure that will boost livestock production and provision of employment opportunities within the livestock value chain. The forum therefore applauds what it described as laudable and courageous decision by Northern States Governors Forum, stating that the initiative will go a long way in not only improving the livestock production, but will also ensure peaceful coexistence among herders and farmers, especially in the northern states. The Northern States Governors Forum, in its emergency meeting held in Kaduna on 12 September 2019, agreed to adopt the National Livestock Transformation Plan. The plan was earlier commissioned by the National Economic Council, NEC, under the chairmanship of the Vice President. This is the news on NTA International. Time for a short break. More news afterwards.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Oga Legova, Mr. Sabi. And you know if you carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We Sabi say Pikin will crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for her. Go for football. Go for Osorio on the Liga Marches live. Go for GoTV Max.
Thanks a lot for staying tuned in to the news on NT International. The presidency has reacted to what it described as a twisted story with Malaysia's intent published on Saturday Punch of September 14, 2019, with the front page headline reading, Tribunal Buhari retracts, confesses he was under tension. A statement by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, said the story is misleading as it did not reflect the true position. It notes that the news story was derived from what the president said when he received All Progressives Congress APC governors who had come to felicitate with him at the State House at Abuja on Friday, referring specifically to Judgment Day by the tribunal, which coincided with a maiden meeting of the Federal Executive Council, FEC. President Buhari had said, and I quote, "It was a fabulous coincidence that it came almost the same time the first FEC meeting of this government was taking place. It lasted about the same time with the judgment. I thank God for that because I think I would have gone into trauma or something. So I was busy trying to concentrate on the memos." End of quote. The presidency says an elementary understanding of the English language shows that President Buhari was talking specifically of the day and time of the court ruling and not before. The statement explains that to further show malice and evil intent, the newspaper indicated that the president may not have been privy to the earlier statement that emanated from his media office. The presidency says nobody does that for such a landmark development without the consent of the principal. It notes that a piece of information the president personally approved the statement for release as the FEC meeting was winding to a close. APC chieftain Bola Ahmed Tinubu says the presidential tribunal verdict is justice served to consolidate on good governance. Reacting to the judgments on his Twitter handle, Bola Ahmed Tinubu notes that the unanimous ruling of the Court of Appeal dismissing the presidential election petition of PDP candidate Alhaji Abubakar Atiku indicated the rule of law in defense of democracy by affirming the sovereign will of the people who voted overwhelmingly for President Muhammadu Buhari to serve for the second term during the February 23rd election. He congratulated President Buhari for the judicial victory and quoted to say, "I know Mr. President as a magnanimous person. We reach out in his hand in friendship to Atiku in the spirit of politics without bitterness and advise that national interest among other things should be paramount." Still on electoral matters now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared 51 candidates and their deputy to contest the November 16 governorship election in Kogi. The names of the declared candidates and their details were made public in Lokoja. 5 of the declared governorship candidates are women, while 7 women were not declared to contest the election as deputy governors. Those declared include the incumbent governor, Yaya Bello of the All Progressives Congress APC, Musa Wada of the People's Democratic Party PDP, and Mrs. Justina Abadina of the African Democratic Congress. Up next is a review of stories that made headlines in the past few days, and Obiageli Ugoke will be our guide.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Week in Review. The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal dismissed the petition filed by Atiku Abubakar and the People's Democratic Party (PDP) challenging February 23rd election of President Muhammadu Buhari. The five-man panel, headed by Justice Muhammad Garuba, in a unanimous judgment resolved all issues in favor of President Buhari, the All Progressives Congress (APC) and the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). During the week under review, the Federal Executive Council approved the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for the year 2020 to 2022. The document projects 10.07 trillion naira as budget size for the 2020 fiscal year. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, announced this after the maiden meeting of the Council. We informed you that President Muhammadu Buhari said the federal government has no intention whatsoever to inflict additional hardship on Nigerians as it implements the next level agenda for sustainable future of the country. He said this when he received in audience the newly elected executive members of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. President restated commitment to paying the new minimum wage as well as lifting millions of Nigeria out of poverty.
We secured the nation's territorial integrity and continue to protect the lives and properties of our citizens. We introduced various economic stimulus packages that support businesses and traders at all levels.
We also informed you that 187 Nigerians voluntarily returned to Nigeria following series of attacks on other African nationals in South Africa. The returnees were in high spirits to tap into life-changing initiatives of the federal government in repositioning their livelihoods. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said during the week under review that the federal government will continue to collaborate with state governments in fighting the menace of insurgency, banditry, and all forms of criminal tendencies for the overall growth and development of the nation. This was while the Vice President inaugurated petrol vehicles and motorcycles procured by Adamawa State Government for security agencies in the state. You also heard that Northern State Governors Forum formally adopted the National Livestock Transformation Plan with a resolution to implement the entire roadmap of the plan in all member states. Chairman of the forum, Simon Bako Lalong, disclosed this after an emergency meeting of the forum in Kaduna. And that's the package. Thanks for watching.
Okay, with that package, now world leaders including Vice President Yemi Osinbajo converged on Harare for the funeral of former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe. Let's join Joyce Meto for details of this and other news trending from other parts of the globe.
The voting process for the Tunisian presidential election for nationals living abroad in 6 electoral cycles has begun, and this will continue until 15th September, the date of commencement of the voting process within Tunisia. A statement by the Tunisian Independent High Authority for Elections says about 302 voting centers have been established. Meanwhile, a tropical depression near the Bahamas has strengthened into a tropical storm Humberto. Parts of the northwestern Bahamas that were recently affected by Hurricane Dorian are expected to experience tropical storm force winds and heavy rain over the weekend, but not significant storm surge. Forecasters expect the storm to stay offshore of Florida's eastern coast, so a tropical storm watch is no longer in effect for the state. And former and current African leaders were joined by thousands of supporters Saturday for the state funeral of former Zimbabwean leader Robert Mugabe at the National Sports Stadium in the capital, Harare. Mugabe died September 6th in Singapore at the age of 95. He ruled Zimbabwe for 37 years. Those in attendance at the state funeral included South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, South Sudan Salva Kiir, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, as well as Nigerian's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, along with other leaders from Equatorial Guinea and Congo. They arrived to crowds chanting Zimbabwe liberation songs and banging on drums. Mugabe's casket was marched slowly into the stadium, covered by Zimbabwean flags and accompanied by a military band and an escort of officers. In his tribute, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said, the former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe stood out as a leader because of his zeal, passion, and selfless commitment to the emancipation of the people of Zimbabwe and the self-realization of black people everywhere. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President on Media and Publicity, Laolu Akande, indicates that the Vice President said this on arrival in Harare to attend the funeral of the late African leader. The Vice President added that Nigeria most respectfully condoles with the Republic of Zimbabwe on the passing of her president, Robert Mugabe, who led the public and her people to freedom and majority rule. He wished the people of Zimbabwe great peace and prosperity. Joyce Ometu, NTA News.
Thanks, Joy. President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled with the family of former Minister of Finance Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala over the passing to glory of a patriarch of a family, Obi Chukwuka Okonjo, at 91, a professor of mathematics, university administrator, international consultant, and traditional ruler. The president also commiserated with governments and people of Delta State, the academia, the Umobi Obahia royal family of Ogwashi Ukwu, friends and professional colleagues of a scholar who dedicated his life to teaching, research and service of humanity. A statement by the special advisor to the president's media and publicity, Femi Adesina, said President Buhari affirmed that the traditional ruler contributed immensely to Nigeria's development with his uncommon wisdom of pursuing knowledge, encouraging his wife and children to follow the same path, and sponsoring other people's children to acquire quality education. President Buhari praised that Almighty God will grant the soul of the elder statesman eternal rest and comfort his family. Now let's take a look at weather prospects for Nigeria and other parts